I was communicating with Elon last night. Elon and Vivek and I are on a text chain together. And I was explaining to them the background of this. And Vivek and I talked last night about almost midnight. And he said, look, I get it. He said, we understand you're in an impossible position. Everybody knows that. Remember, guys, we still have just a razor thin margin of Republicans. So any bill has to have Democrat votes. They understand the situation. They said, it's not directed to you, Mr. Speaker, but we don't like the spending. I said, guess what, fellas? I don't either. We got to get this done because here's the key. By doing this, we are clearing the decks and we are setting up for Trump to come in roaring back with the America First agenda. That's what we're going to run with gusto beginning January 3rd when we start the new Congress, when Republicans, again, are in control. And all of our fiscal conservative friends, I'm one of them, will be able to finally do the things that we've been wanting to do for the last couple of years. Right now, Democrats still control the pens, and that's the problem. So we got to get this thing done so we don't have the shutdown, so we get the short-term funding measure, and we get to March where we can put our fingerprints on the spending. That's when the big changes start, and we can't wait to get there.
Oh, that is such a load off. I was worried. Let's bring in now Amber Duke. She's the Washington editor of The Spectator. Amber, that is actually a huge load off of my chest. One, he doesn't want to do this. That makes me feel good. And two, next time they're really going to dig into this. I'm excited now.
They promise next time every time, Jesse. That's the problem. There's never a moment where they actually hold the line. But I will say, if there's three things that are good about this bill, and I'm really scratching the bottom of the well to get these, one is that there is diminished funding for the transgender youth surgeries through military healthcare, which is something of a win, although, you know, with the grand scope of this CR, a very minimal win. And then two, this goes through March. So Trump's going to be in office starting on January 20th. Let's hope that there's a clean slate come March. And with Elon Musk's influence at Doge and the general appetite of conservatives and Freedom Caucus to cut government spending, I just hope to God that at that moment, there's going to be enough political pressure on these people that they're not going to be able to pull these last minute shenanigans anymore.
Okay, Amber, what's your wish list for 2025 for the GOP that is realistic, right? Because we all want the border secure and mass deportation and spending cuts and like all these things. But what's realistic? What can we do? What are we not going to be able to do? We're not going to deport 10 million people. I'm not naive. We're not going to cut $2 trillion from a criminal organization known as the U.S. government. These things are not going to happen, but we can do good things. What can we do?
Well, I'm hopeful that we'll be able to actually pass H.R. 1, which was the original border security bill before Mitch McConnell decided to send in James Lankford to negotiate that monstrosity with the Senate. There needs to be a border security bill that does not have amnesty in it, that does not have a cap on how many illegals are allowed to come in. There shouldn't be any that are allowed in. That should be number one. Number two, I think the House will have no problem expanding the Trump tax cuts from his first term. Those are set to expire soon. And I hope we're able to get some meaningful cuts to foreign aid. Most importantly, not sending another red cent to Ukraine. Those should be top three. And then if I had to go a little bit further and ask for something that I don't think the House will accomplish appropriately, investigations of the deep state. I mean, just yesterday, we had these text messages come out that showed Liz Cheney engaging in potentially witness tampering. Let's investigate all these people, actually hold them accountable. But the reason I put that off of my top three wish list is the House GOP has proven repeatedly that they are not good at holding effective investigations. They tend to start these things, get tons of media attention, and then they never really go anywhere. So that's sort of my pie in the sky wish for them, but I'm not expecting that it'll happen or that if they do it, it'll be anything meaningful.
Amber, what about one of my favorite things in the world, firing federal employees? Do you think we will get any kind of an actual reduction in the size of this government, which somehow has become the largest employer in the country, even though it was supposed to be limited?
God, I hope so. And even if it's not done through Congress with a changing of Schedule F or anything like that, or reducing the salaries of these people, then from the executive side, what Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy have suggested, which I think makes perfect sense in terms of attrition, is forcing people to work in the office 5 days a week. You won't believe it, Jesse. I was on my way home from Capitol Hill today, there is bumper to bumper traffic at 2:30 in the afternoon because these people in DC do not work. And then also moving some of these federal agencies outside of DC so that it is closer to the American people. It's insane that we have so much power concentrated in this little area. And it's a reason why the policies are so divorced from average Americans' concerns. Put these people in the Midwest, force them to go to work 5 days a week. Half of the bad ones are going to quit, and then the rest of them are going to be so miserable. Give them 4 to 6 months and they'll quit too. And then you have people working in these agencies who actually care about what is happening in real America, not just in the DC metro corridor.
I don't know how you suffer through that traffic every single day, Amber. I lived in that area for 1 year. I was 11 miles from my house to where I worked in DC, and there were days it took me an hour and a half to get to work over 11 miles. It's like a living hell.
Yes, exactly. And luckily I work from home right now. I only have to go in a couple of days a week if I have meetings or if I'm doing TV and what have you. But it is absolutely miserable. I don't understand how people commute every day from a 9 to 5. During COVID, it was really nice actually, because most people were too scared to go into DC. So if you were actually going to work and driving in somewhere, there was parking everywhere. There was no parking enforcement. It was like luxurious, but yes, it's returned to the hellscape that it has always been.
Yeah, and all my travels during COVID, the most masked up area by a mile was Washington, D.C., far outpacing New York City or Cali or any of these places. All right, Amber, setting that aside, you mentioned Russia, Ukraine. Obviously, we all want this thing to end. I would like young men to stop being butchered for whatever reason they're being butchered for. But what is realistic? Donald Trump is not president of Ukraine. He's not president of Russia. What can we do?
Well, I mean, it has to be as simple as this. Ukraine is only in this fight to this point because of U.S. assistance, whether it's weapons, money, whatever. So the U.S. should absolutely get a say in whether or not the war continues. And it's important to negotiate an end to this. Obviously, both sides are not going to get everything they want, but that's the nature of war. There's going to have to be some compromise. Zelensky can't continue to say, well, we're just going to keep fighting until we basically don't have any money or bodies anymore. That's not acceptable. You can't have it both ways. You can't say that you want U.S. funding, but the U.S. doesn't get a say in how you operate. Okay, great. You don't want the U.S. to be involved in negotiations, or you don't want them to force you to the table with Russia, then all funding is off the table. This has to be, for lack of a better term, if you remember, this became a huge flashpoint in one of the Trump impeachments, quid pro quo. If you get U.S. money, then we have a say in how things happen.
Amber, thank you, ma'am. I appreciate you, as always. I would thank you for coming to my YouTube channel, but I know how brilliant it is, and I know you love it here. So subscribe and watch. We're going to start really ramping things up and putting some funny stuff, some interesting stuff out there, some collaborations. Either way, my YouTube channel is officially the place to be. So stick around.